how would I move from a 5 to a 7 in my STEM subjects?
5 is already considered like slightly above average. So if you're already getting a 5, then you're a fairly capable student anyway. But to get those last couple of points, like it's up to a 6 or a 7, you've got to really apply yourself. So you can't go in with like a moderate understanding of your subject matter and stuff like that. Like you really need to know everything in the syllabus. So your best bet would be to review regularly and make sure that you know each topic as you finish it, and then don't forget about them. So one mistake that a lot of students make is they do one topic at the beginning of year 1 or something like that, and then they never go back and review it until the final exam or something. So you should be kind of periodically reviewing your topics kind of as you go along and making sure that you're being consistent, those kinds of things. So that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give for that.
Possible to move from a 3 to a 6 in my subjects?
Jump. So if you're at a 3, that's kind of a different situation where I would say you're kind of struggling with your subject. 4 is probably like, you're doing okay, you're kind of getting by. But a 3 shows signs that it's difficult for you for whatever reason. So if you mean like a 3 as a predicted grade or something and you're trying to move up to a 6, then it's really all up to the final exam at that point. Like if you've already submitted your IAs or whatever your external assessments are, then you've really just got the final exam and you really need to pull it together. But it is possible. Like I've had students go from a 4 to a 6 or something like that. Like it's not impossible at all. And same kind of thing. So like regular review, definitely practice things like the command terms and reading questions very carefully, making sure you understand exactly what they're looking for, doing lots and lots of practice exams, looking at past papers, making sure that you've got lots of just experience answering the kinds of questions that you're going to see, and not being scared of new types of questions and things like that. So, you don't want to lose marks on student stuff like forgetting units on a question or something like that. Those are simple areas that students can sometimes lose marks. So making sure that you have all those little details kind of in place, and then just being confident enough to go into an exam and not freak out, I guess.
Which of the science subjects would you say is most valued?
It's an interesting question. So it really depends where you're approaching this from. So if you mean like as far as careers or something, then I would say probably, it's difficult. Like I'm a biology teacher, so I'm a little bit biased on this one. But I think biology is maybe the most sort of universally applicable. Like, I mean, it's got nutrition and health and things that affect everybody, whether you're a scientist or not, and things like that. Physics and chemistry, I think, are more specific. Like, physicists deal with some fairly complicated theoretical math and that the average person probably doesn't use in their everyday life. But as far as careers, like, there are far fewer physics specialists than there are biologists, for example. And so there's more demand for them. So it really depends what you mean. Like, if you're talking about for everybody, then I would say biology or environmental science is maybe a better subject choice for a lot of students, especially if they're not interested in science. It's like a post-secondary. But for careers, chemistry or physics is probably a slightly more competitive choice.
Would joining STEM clubs in middle school helps you in DP?
So this really depends on what the purpose of the club is and how active it is and how much you're required to do for it and things like that. But for sure, if you're interested in the sciences anyway, then it makes sense to get involved as much as you can. Like anything that gets you learning more about the sciences and getting a stronger base knowledge for any area will help you. More practice with math, more practice with experimentation, more practice with robotics or coding or all these other things that are kind of related to science and engineering and things like that. They're definitely going to help you. But don't do it just because you think it'll help you get a better grade. I mean, do it because you enjoy it. That's the advice that I would say.
What's the role of assessment criteria in IA?
All right. Okay. So assessment criteria, I think, are very important in IAs. Okay. So it kind of gives you, how do I put it? It kind of gives you like a standard to work on. Okay, it tells you exactly what you need to include in your IA to gain those high marks. Okay, so that's very important, and every student needs to know, okay, what is present, what type of assessment criteria they are going to be marked on, and how to score high in these assessment criteria. Now, how do you know which what are the assessment criteria, and how to work hard towards those assessment criteria? The answer is very simple. Have that talk with your teacher. Okay, first of all, have that talk with your teacher. Know your assessment criteria. Secondly, look at your IB syllabus. That's very important. At the back of the IB syllabus, where there is that section of IB criteria, okay, or IA, sorry, you will find all the IB criteria listed in, and what you can do in order to score high in each one of them. I would certainly advise you to read them carefully and to try to integrate all these pointers in your IA. Okay, so when I'm marking an IA, I'm marking with the rubric, that is the assessment criteria. So if I see pointers present in your IA, you get the mark. Okay, if it's not present, you get lesser mark. Okay, so the mathematics is very simple. Okay, know all your assessment criteria, know all the fine details, how you can score high in each of those assessment criteria. Try include them in your IA, and you get high marks. Okay. So,
Assessment criteria is the easiest to score in, and how?
So my focus over here, so you will see that in terms of assessment criteria, the easiest to score, and often the one that is often disregarded, is the analysis section. Okay, I find that many students tend to dedicate too much time on developing their background information and spend less time on the analysis section, which I find a little bit regrettable, because it is the highest scoring assessment criteria, but also it is the assessment criteria that is easiest to score marks in. Simple things like analysis of your graph, trying to find out trends and patterns, and trying to understand if ever the graph is suitable statistically or not. All these gives you massive amount of points. So I think it is also the easiest to score, but often the one that is mostly disregarded.